Okay. Test volume. Let's see. Test volume. Test volume. I think it's working. Okay, I think I'm streaming. Oops, I gotta turn the sound off here. So I doubt there's anybody here, but this will get recorded. I'm gonna make some video lessons about loops. And to start that off, I'm opening up p5. I am creating a new project. I'm saying, okay, sorry. I'm going to set up something that we'll need a loop for. Let's do this. And then maybe 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, oops, 200, and then 250, 250. So what I'm doing here is I save this as under loops 1. What I'm doing here is setting up an example. You can't see me this whole time. I should just start this over. Shoot. Is anybody there? 2 watching now. Sorry, everybody. Okay. Okay. So, okay, now back to the video I'm making. Okay. So, here is the scenario. So this is the scenario I'm going to start with in the video, which is the many shapes. How do you have this same line of code, but repeat it multiple times with a loop? That's the video I'm going to make. I got to turn the air conditioning down. I have, oops, not very much time. It's 10:30. I'm going to try to do a couple videos about loops in the next 30 to 40 minutes before I have to go and then have class. And I have my invisible cup again, which I'm going to drink my invisible water. I doubt anyone's ever going to watch this, which is fine, just fine by me. And I'm going to get started with this video. I'm going to check the chat, see if anybody's there, has any questions or comments. Hi, is the audio okay? Can you hear okay? And then I'm also going to do another test. Is the audio okay? Can you hear okay from this camera? Can you hear okay from this camera? So I'll have to wait for any response now that I'm in my infinite thing. All right. I'm just going to assume that the audio is working fine. It always has been. Okay. Okay, so now I need to get ready. I'm going to start over here. And this video is going to be about, I'm going to make a video about the while loop and the for loop all in one. It's going to be a little more condensed than the videos I made last year about processing that are more long-winded with lots more stuff. Okay, here we go. Start over. I don't know what the first thing to say is. Okay. And also, like, my nose is running. I don't have a tissue. I'll be fine. Okay. So this video that I'm making right now, I'm going to look at something in programming, a control structure, a way to control the flow of how a program runs, what it does, called a repeat loop. And this, if you've just started programming, if you've watched some of the other videos or played around with some code, this is clearly something that you've encountered a need for. And I have a prime example of that right here. So you can see this sketch that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of code. Each line of code draws a line. So there's 6 lines on the screen. It's not too unreasonable. I have 6 lines of code, 6 lines in the canvas. It works. But I want to add some more lines, or I want to, you know what? I think I want to do this with the circles. Stop. I think I'm going to do this with ellipses. Because I'm saying lines of code and lines as the shape, and it's proving to be a bit awkward. So this should work. Now I just need to have them be like 25 by 25. And maybe I'll put them all at 200. Sorry, so if I just copy 20. This also looks a bit more neat. I can even do that. Oops. I'm being crazy now. I'll keep the 0 one there. I think that's worth it. Okay. Great. I'm just going to check the chat to see if anyone said anything. Hi, Joan. Or maybe I mispronounced the name. Okay. I'm back. Okay. So let me start this video over again. Drink a little water. Okay. I have a pen. Here we go. Hello. So this, I think I'm going to stop saying hello. This video, I would like to talk about something called a repeat loop. This is an essential control structure in programming that you need to do all sorts of things. If you've been working with code and drawing, it's probably become recently immediately clear what you might need a repeat loop for, and I have a demonstration of that right here. So if you see this canvas here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 circles there. Each circle is drawn with a single call to the ellipse function. And this works fine. You want 6 circles on the screen, call the ellipse function 6 times. But if you want to have 60 circles on the screen, or 600 circles on the screen, or space them closer, or do more stuff with them, having an individual line of code for the same thing that's repeated over and over again is certainly not the route that you want to go. So this is exactly what a repeat loop is for. And I said that a repeat loop is a control structure, and in a previous video I looked at another control structure known as a conditional statement. So that control structure looked like this. If Boolean expression, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. And if this is true, this code is executed. I'm going to add something once, and then we go to the next line of code. This is how this particular control structure worked. The conditional statement control structure. So the control structure of a loop is written just like the if statement, but with a different keyword besides if. And now there's actually 2 ways of doing it. The first way that I'm going to show you looks very much like the if statement. It's while Boolean expression. While this is true, continue to do this code over and over and over and over and over again. So I want to think about this control structure, and I'm going to add some things to the code, and we're going to add this control structure then into the code. So these are really identical in their syntax and form. The differences are if here, while here. If this is true, do this. While this is true, continue to execute this code over and over again, which opens up a little bit of a dangerous fact. It's possible your program could get stuck inside this loop, and this is something we're going to have to deal with immediately right now as we start to work on this problem some more. So, come on over here. So let's look at this code again. So one thing you'll notice about this code is I didn't use any variables. So I think it would be advantageous to use a variable. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a variable, and I'm going to call it x. X equals 0. Now I declared it up on the top. In the previous videos that I've made and all of the examples, the variables have always been declared at the top. This is because I've been using these variables as so-called global variables, meaning I can just use them anywhere in my code and the program remembers them over and over again forever and ever. Here is a case right now where actually what I want to do is just use a variable just for this section of the code, and I don't need to remember it. any other time when mouse is pressed or back in setup or anything like that. So actually, I'm going to take this opportunity to show you something called a local variable. And if you declare a variable inside of a function, I'm inside this draw function, this variable right now is a local variable. It's only available for the purposes of this draw function. Okay, so now, what do I want to do? I want to put x here, and I could say x plus 50, x plus 100. I could keep doing that, and we'd have the same program. I just used x instead of 0. But what I actually want to do is show you, what if I just have x everywhere? If I have x in all of these lines of code, now what do I have? I have one circle at 0 because I drew the same ellipse at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 over and over again. So what if I were to now add, after each one, x equals x plus 50? So let's move x by 50 after each ellipse. And I'm also going to do something. I'm going to add some line breaks. Whoops, wrong place. I'm going to add some line breaks if I can manage this, just to sort of look at it to see what is repeated. Okay? So, and let's add a line break here. Okay. Okay, so let's look at this now. I have these chunks, ellipse, then add 50, ellipse, then add 50, ellipse, then add 50, ellipse, then add 50. All of these blocks of code are actually identical, right? Like, let me delete them and just show you what I mean. Right? So now we run this program, one ellipse. Now let me take these two lines of code and just do paste, 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 paste. Auto format. Now I have all these ellipses there. So this now we really have the same exact lines of code, like just over and over and over again. There's got to be a way to perform those lines of code over and over again. I just want to say ellipse at x, etc. And then I want to say x equals x plus 50. This is exactly what I want to do. I just want to do this over and over again while something is true. Okay, so let's think about that. We need to figure out, when do I stop doing this over and over again? If I just wrote true inside here, this loop would execute forever, and the program would never stop. It would get stuck there. We'd never see anything on the screen. What is my exit condition? Well, there is no answer to this question. It's kind of up to you. I mean, why am I even here drawing circles on the screen? I'll never know. But presumably you have a reason for learning programming and you have an idea for something you want to make. In this case, though, I can make up something. I just want to keep drawing circles till I get to the edge of the window. So what is my exit condition? My exit condition is, this is the canvas. The exit condition, I want to stop looping when x is greater than width. Right? This is when I want to stop looping. But remember, the thing that in here is when it's true, that's not when I stop looping, that's when I continue looping. So I want to continue looping as long as x is less than width. So as long as x is less than width, I want to draw this ellipse over and over and over again. Okay, so let's come over here and see that. So now I can take all this nonsense and just leave this important part. These are the two lines of code that I want to repeat over and over and over again. While x is still on the screen, do this. Draw a circle, move over. Draw a circle, move over. Draw a circle, move over. So now I can add while x is less than width. And then I need a closed curly bracket. And again, this is a new block of code. This while loop is a new block of code. It opens with a curly bracket, it ends with a curly bracket, and the convention is to indent the inside just visually for a human being to be able to see it. So now I'm going to run this, and we can see there are all the ellipses. Now if you look at this, you can see it kind of, the first one starts at 0 and the last one doesn't start at width. That's simply because I have x is less than width. I don't know if width is divisible by 50. I think it is. I could try less than equals. And then I kind of get that last one. So the math here matters, like where's exactly your exit condition and that sort of thing. But now you can see I've drawn all these circles. So this is a good, nice start. However, somebody watching this video, somebody out there in the world who may be watching this video is going to say, why are you bothering with this while loop thing? Nobody ever uses a while loop. Well, I personally felt like it was worth 5 minutes of our time, your time, my time, to look at the while loop because it translates so nicely from this if statement to while. So what happened here? If this is true, do this once. While this is true, do this over and over again. But if you'll notice, this particular while loop has 3 elements to it that I want to note to you. The first one is we start with initializing a variable, var x equals 0. The second thing is we test for an exit condition. X is less than or equal to width. And the third thing I want to note is that we have this incrementation operation. X goes up by 50. So those 3 elements are so common in loops that there's an entire other looping structure, control structure called a for loop that puts all those things together as just 1, 2, 3. So I want to redo this exact same program with a for loop and show you what I mean. So we had, let me erase all this. This will take me a second. Think to yourself about something. So I had 3 things. I had an initialization, var x equals 0. I have a Boolean test, is x less than width. And then at the end of the loop, I had an incrementation operation, x equals x plus 50. So what I'm suggesting to you is this is such a common kind of loop that the loop you will most likely use in almost all of your programs, and I would suggest you doing an exercise with, is a for loop. For var x equals 0, x is less than width, x, I'm going to go off of the screen, equals x plus 50. Can you still see that? Parentheses, curly brackets, okay? So this is taking everything from this while loop and condensing it. So the loop starts by initializing x. Every time through the loop, x goes up by 50. And every time the loop finishes, it checks if the exit condition has been met, in which case it then exits the loop. So we can now go back to this program. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to leave this, I'm going to put this at all the circles at x equals 100. And I'm going to rewrite this same loop down here with a for loop. So I don't need to paste it actually. I'm going to say for var x equals 0. X is less than width, x equals x plus 50, curly bracket. And let me widen the editor here so you can see the whole thing. And then all I need is the one line of code, the thing that I want to happen during this counting looping operation, which is that I want to draw the ellipses. I'm going to draw them at 300. So let's make these some color, and let's make these some other color. And let's run it. So we can see, oh, and I guess I'll do the x less than or equals for both of them, and you can see now. So you can see both loops perform exactly the same task. This is a bit more explicit because you can kind of read the order more obviously. Start with x equals 0, while it's less than width, draw this circle and go up by 50. But the exact same thing is happening here. And it's so common that being able to condense this into one line of code is something that you might do. Now, inevitably, you're going to see other examples around the internet. And one thing that I think I should point out is this kind of operation, x equals x plus 50, is also so common that programmers have developed a shorthand for it, which I think is worth noting right now. Okay, so it's often you might see a line of code like this, x equals x plus 50. This line of code can be written as shorthand as x plus equals 50. Okay, so that's one thing to notice. You might see this in examples that you look at. This is certainly more explicit and more long-winded, but this is just as accurate as the exact same operation. The other thing you might see is when you have the number 1, x equals x plus 1, this is written shorthand as x plus plus. And if you thought about it, there's a programming language called C, and there's a programming language called C++, which is like the next version of C. It's not exactly accurate, but close enough. But so this is also such a convention that it sort of made our way into kind of vernacular speak. I don't know whose vernacular speak. I don't even know what vernacular means. I really should have stopped this video a while ago. So this is just a little tidbit. You might see that if I were to add that to this example, I would say, I would change this to x plus equals 50, and then I would run it again, and we'd have still the same exact result. So what I would say to you is, try to think, try lines, try rectangles, try to control your loops. What if you have things moving down or diagonally? Or what if could you change the color? Like, how would you have each one of these shapes be a different color from bright to dark, or from dark to bright? The map function that I looked at in a previous video could be relevant. So try using a repeat loop to create some pattern of repeating shapes. And the two other videos I would like to make, one is I would like to look at a nested loop, a loop within a loop, to draw a grid pattern. And also, I think I want to talk about an array, which is a list of variables which goes hand in hand with a loop. So I need to make that video at some point too. Thanks, and this is the end of this one. Okay, so I'm still live streaming. That seemed to be okay. You can use command click for multiple cursor. Huh. I don't know what that means. But thank you for the comment. And hello to the few of you who are out here watching. I think what I will do is, let's see if I can do that nested loop one, right? Why not, right? No big deal. Let's do the nested loop example video. Okay. So the other thing I want to mention, the other thing that I need to mention in a video is to talk about how the loop is within this draw loop. I should have mentioned that in the previous video, but I think I'll just do it both in the next one. I'll talk about the loop being within the draw loop and also look at a nested loop. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to turn the air conditioning up for a minute. Oops. To make it a little bit cooler in here while I'm getting ready. So I'm going to close this. Hello to some new people who have joined. I'm recording, I'm over here. I'm recording videos. So I'm also just like talking in between the recording of videos. So there'll be these finished videos that will get uploaded. And then there's this long raw footage of me acting like a lunatic in here. So what I want to do is remove this. Let me save as loops 2. I'm going to remove this while loop. I have like 10 more minutes before I should move on, and I have to get ready for actual class. So so here's what I want to talk about in the next video. I want to change this to be a grid of circles across the whole window. And then I want to talk about the loop within a loop, which I can maybe do by changing the color randomly, and it'll like flicker or something. Ugh. This could be better, but it's just going to be what it is. It's fine. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to check the chat one more time to see if anybody had any feedback. Some other people are saying hi. I say hi back to you. And now here we go. Okay. Okay, so I got to turn the air conditioning back down. I'm going to hit record. I'll start over here. Let me erase this first. Start the video out. And I'm going to get started. Okay. Previous video I just made looked at some of the basics of a while loop and a for loop, and all we really did was like a tiny little thing. All I did was I said we, I like to say I. There is no we here. Okay. So the previous video that I just made, I looked at the basics of the control structure of the loop. So I looked at a while loop and a for loop, and for loop is the primary loop that I'm going to use for the demonstrations in this particular video. So there's a couple little items that I want to tack on to this discussion. You know, all we really did we. It doesn't matter. I can say we. It's fine. I'm going to start recording this one more time, and it's going to be finished. Okay, here we go. I forgot what I was going to say. I'd like to make one more video about loops. I mean, I could probably make 10 more videos about loops, but I think there was a couple key things that are missing from the previous video where all I did was something very basic. Showed you how the structure of the loop works and used it to draw a repeating shape. So it's up to you to kind of try to do some creative things with that, but I think there are two pieces of this puzzle that I would like to discuss that I think will help your knowledge a little bit. So the first thing is that there's something a little bit strange going on. Oh, shoot. It's fine. That camera went off, but guess what? It's back on. Now it went off too. Fine, I'll start over. Every time I hit the button, then the camera goes to the wrong location. Okay. I'm going to stop this. Am I here back? Nope, this camera's off. Okay. Nope. Come back to me, camera. This camera is causing me all sorts of problems. Oh, it's back. Okay. This one is good. This one is good, except it's kind of, I gotta like turn it a little bit. There we go. That's better. Okay, sorry everybody. If anybody is actually watching this on the live stream, you have to deal with my technical difficulties. But I am now ready to try this again. Except I forgot what I was saying. Okay, something about two more things. Loop within a loop, yeah. Okay. I got it. Oops. I walked into this. You know what? I'm going to leave this in the video because this really happened and it's there. So the previous video I made, I just looked at really the basics of the control structure of the loop. A while loop, a for loop being the sort of primary looping structure that I'm going to use for the rest of the examples. And all I did was something very basic. Use it to draw a repeating shape. And now it's up to you to figure out what kinds of creative things you can try to experiment with to create different new kinds of patterns that you haven't explored before. But I think there are two key elements that I would like to discuss that I think will fill in a couple gaps in your knowledge here that will help you do more stuff with loops. So the first thing that I want to mention is, I started talking about loops as if this is this new thing. But there actually is this draw function, and one of the very first things I looked at in an earlier video is this draw function is looping. And every time you get to the end of the draw function, the screen is updated, then the draw function repeats, stuff is drawn again, the screen is updated. So sometimes it gets a little bit confusing here. If you have this loop, like there's this for loop that I just created in the previous example, which is inside the draw loop. This all like comes back together because this video is all about nested loops. Because this is really a nested loop. Draw is looping, the for loop is looping. But, right, the goal of this loop was to do what? It was to draw multiple shapes, repeat the same ellipse function over and over and over again. However, if you're thinking about this kind of in almost too much detail, you might have noticed while this loop is going, it's not like you see like the first ellipse, then you see the second one, then you see the third one, then you see the fourth one. You just see them all. You might also think to yourself, okay, well, it's drawing them one at a time, but it happens so fast, it looks like it's just all of them. So I would like to remind you that neither of those things is the case. In fact, the window, the canvas, is not updated until the end of draw is reached. So the purpose of a for loop inside the draw loop is not to animate something, but rather to draw a whole bunch of things for each cycle of the draw loop. If you want to animate things, you would have to do something slightly different. So let's take a look in this particular example. So I'm going to draw these back in the middle, these circles. So the circles are just there. I'm seeing all of them. Nothing is changing. I could do a couple things. One, I could add random for the blue value of the color. And now we can see that, can you see that? Whoa. Yeah, that's really like the worst. Let me make this random too, because you can barely see that. Now you can see that more, right? So you can see that draw is looping over and over again, and the only thing that's changing is that the color is changing. The location of these ellipses from that loop are staying the same. I could do something kind of strange, and I could say, let me add a variable like offset, and I could say draw every ellipse at the x. X is part of this loop. Oh my goodness, I'm flickering like crazy. This camera is having problems, but hopefully you're going to be able to get through this video anyway. The x is the same every time through. X is the same every time through draw, because x is what's this is making me crazy, governing the location of those circles. But if I were to say offset equals offset plus 1, now you can see I'm offsetting the location of all of those by some amount. So these are kind of like a few sort of strange, quick things that I've added here. But the point of what I wanted to make is you just need to keep that in mind, right? This draw loop is for the purpose of refreshing. That flip book metaphor I think works well, or analogy, someone will correct me. The flip book idea, right? You've got a page and then a next page and a next page and a next page. There's no flip book here. This is in order to perform a repeating task on a single page in the flip book for animation. So that's the first thing that I wanted to note. The other thing that comes up very often is kind of related to this, because what happens if now inside this loop I put another loop? For every x, do something to every y. And let's think about how that might be useful. And this is a kind of algorithm or process that comes up over and over again and again in any sort of computer graphics programming and other kinds of programming as well. Why? Because the canvas, the thing that we're drawing to, is a two-dimensional grid. It has pixels along an x-axis and it has pixels along a y-axis. So if I would like to draw something for every x, fill in all the y's. So for the first x, do all the y's. For the next x, do all the y's. Now for the next x, do all the y's. The way that that works is to say for var x equals 0, the rest of the for loop, and then for every x, assuming this x is going up, every time you do an x, also do a y. So this is a little tricky to get used to, but it's incredibly powerful and will open up a lot of possibilities. You know, you want to program a game that involves a two-dimensional board of cells, like chess or checkers. You're going to need some sort of structure like this. If you want to learn about image processing, how do you read every pixel of an image and make that pixel a little brighter, a little darker, or apply some other kind of effect, you're going to need this kind of loop. So it comes up over and over again in so many things. So let's look at that apply into code. And I'm still here. Hopefully I won't flicker and disappear too much. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to save this project as, I'm saving these because someday I will upload them somewhere, I suppose. I am going to remove this weird offset thing. I'll keep the random fill, why not? We don't need this offset. And what I want to do is add right here another loop. For y equals 0, y is less than or equal to height, y goes up by 50, and draw the ellipse at x comma y. So all I did is, now this is exactly what we're talking about. For every x, do every y. So my first x, do all the y's. The next x, do all the y's. And let's see if this works. Whoa. It did. So now we have this perfect grid of circles flashing random colors all over the window. You know, how could you make those colors not random? How might you have apply some sort of pattern to it? How might you do all sorts of interesting things, like have those circles start to shake a little bit? That's a little bit more complicated. That we're going to need some other tools, objects and arrays for a bit more. But you can start to think about all of these possibilities. And I just want to point out that, again, if I were to take this loop, and I did this sort of backwards. I don't know why I'm showing you this because it works so nicely. But if I were to not do it this way, right? If I were to do this, 2 loops right? This is what I've got with two separate loops. I'm doing all the x's along the y column 200, and now I'm doing all the y's along the along the y row 200. Now I'm doing all the y's in the x column 200. So I don't know, I had this in my mind, I was going to show you this first, and so now I'm like showing you this after, which really doesn't make a lot of sense. But I'm just like letting this video fly with all of its weirdness and errors. So let me go back to what it was correctly. That was sort of like pointless. Can take that out, and I think this is a nicer place to end looking at this again. So I've talked now about really very little, but kind of giving you a running start here into thinking about loops. A loop is something to repeat a certain task during one cycle of draw. I mean, you can use a loop anywhere, but right now I'm using it to draw multiple copies of a shape inside of draw. You can also use a nested loop to see a grid. Draw, remember, is the flip book. So each time through draw, if you change some aspect of the loop, I just thought of something really interesting that we could try. Like, for example, everything could be a variable right here. The x loop stops at width. What if I were to put mouse x here? So I would just want to dynamically loop up to where the mouse is. So now this loop, remember, is executing every single time, but the exit condition is changing every time through draw. If you're still watching, this was a little nugget here that's hopefully useful. Okay, so that gives you the basics about loops, how loop works within draw, how you have a nested loop, and I need to make one more video, which won't happen today because I now have to go do something else, but I want to look at an array and how loop relates to that. Okay, thank you, and goodbye. Oh, this is where I need to click. Okay, live stream. I don't know if anybody enjoyed that. There's a few people watching. I'm going to go now. I'm going to turn off this live stream. So this video is there now on YouTube of just the kind of rambling live stream thing. But I'm going to upload the actual, they're not edited, but the sections that are like of just the continuous lesson material, upload those as well. Okay, goodbye. I don't know. I have to go click on live control room. And you can see this button here. I am now going to push this button. It says stop streaming. And if this was 36 minutes, and stop. Oh, something else came up. Yes, I'm sure.